Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Burning Question series by Fantasy Football Scout. In this series, Pras and I, Sonaldo, talk about the key hot topics for the week. Pras, after a 1 week break, we are back. Happy to see you. How are you doing, and how's your FPL team doing?
Well, firstly, we're right on time, right on the money. And speaking of being on time, we'll talk about how Andy missed the deadline, the last game week. But all jokes aside, I'm doing well. It's been a week, but it's been 3 game weeks, so a lot has happened while we've been away.
Yeah, certainly. Right off the bat. So I missed the deadline last week. Real life got in the way. I had my team set up. I was just waiting for any last minute transfer news. I was going to do injury news. I was going to do Trossard to Saka and then start Saka over Andreas. But, work got in the way. I missed the deadline by 12 minutes. I freaked out, panicked, messaged Pras. I said, I'm doomed, blah, blah, blah. And then I had a net positive of 9 points. So thank you, Andreas.
When you messaged, I was like, poor guy. He must have had Haaland on the bench and Foden on the bench. And then I see the teams load. I'm like, what is he complaining about? He's got everyone in. So it ended up just being you not having Andreas Pereira, the guy who scored a 9-pointer, instead of Martinelli, who did nothing. So, yeah, sometimes things work out.
Yeah, so I also I'm not going to boast about this week's rank because Zuma also out of nowhere delivered a big 15-pointer. I've been very fortunate the past couple of weeks. So sometimes the way FPL works.
Honestly, if there was 1 week where people could have missed the deadline, it was this week because nobody's transfer worked out. I mean, I took a hit and I was like net minus 19 because both Trossard and Barnes scored. A lot of people took out Trossard, and he scored for Foden, who got a 1-pointer, Martinelli, who got a 2-pointer. So it was the week. So next time, if you're likely to miss a deadline, do let us know so we can also prepare ourselves.
Okay, on that note, let's move to the first section. I just wanted to sort of highlight the bunchness of ranks right now because I think a lot of people are upset with how their picks aren't working, and for good reason, right? A lot of the popular picks aren't seeming to deliver, and we have guys like Andreas and Zuma coming out of nowhere. So just to figure out where you are in terms of rank, still irrelevant, but the difference between top 10K and top 100K is 31 points. The difference between 100K, 500K is 33 points. 100K, 1 million, 53 points. 1 million, 2 million, 28 points gets shorter and shorter. So just a general overview to show that the ranks are super close, 1 or 2 hauls away from really rising up the ranks. Granted, there is still a big difference between, let's say, 2 million, top 10K, top 100K. But if you work your way up throughout the rest of the season, think of it as a marathon. It's not too late. The only thing I will say is it's getting tougher and tougher with the amount of engaged managers and amount of people that are viewing content, and the game's only going to get harder. So I'm interested to see how this works out, but keep going. And then on that note as well, it's there's no top 100K chip usage, but within the top 10K and overall chip usage.
Before you go to the chips, I just wanted to say one thing. Mm-hmm. In terms of climbing ranks, because obviously you're now in top 100K, and I think I'm around 500K. Yes, the delta is low, but I would also tell people there's also a narrative forming that this season it's very hard to climb because everyone's captaining Haaland.
Yeah.
But actually, I would say, apart from Haaland, maybe Cancelo, there is maybe Martinelli at a stretch. There is nobody that everyone has. So there is, yes, a lot of people will sort of go towards certain players. Like people went towards Trossard 1 week. People had Maddison for a few weeks. But as you think about template, I think going against the template, it's never been better to go against the template. If you can match the 3 players, let's say the Martinelli, Cancelo, and Haalands, okay, you can add Foden as well. But the other 7, some people had Zuma, they had benefits. I mean, Harvey Barnes, I went with instead of Martinelli. He's outscored Martinelli by 7 points over the last 5 game weeks. Now, obviously, I missed his last goal because I made the switch, which was always the plan. But there are lots of opportunities this year to be different because there's a lot of good players who are all affordable. Because if you're looking at a single premium structure, even if you're looking for a double, you could go Kane, De Bruyne, Salah. Options are everywhere. So people shouldn't be disheartened that the season is over. It's only 13 game weeks. Absolutely nothing. People at 500K, 600K, a million, you can still make it to top 10K. Don't have the attitude that I need to make my differences now. I need to start doing something now. Just make good decisions every week and know that there's enough opportunity this season. Seasons are bad when there's about 3 or 4 low price players when everybody has them, because that then means that you have all these low price players. Let's say Lundstram, last year's Bowen, last year's Saka. Then you add to that the premiums that everybody has. Last year's Salah, Trent, Cancelo. Now that's a difficult season to climb. This season isn't that. So remember that as people are thinking about it. Don't try to force it. Make the same decision that you will if you were 500K versus a million versus top 10K.
Yeah, very good point. So basically, you're suggesting that the difference this season is the price bracket of and the range, because of the price bracket of players, the range of options we have is much more dynamic, correct?
Yeah, you go Foden, I want to catch you, I go De Bruyne. You go Martinelli, I want to catch you, I go Jesus. Lots of options to go different.
Got it. Awesome. And again, chip usage as well. Not very important, but a lot of, I guess. I think Andy Martin also used his bench boost. So there's a lot of people who have used triple captain.
You'd frozen for a second. I don't know if it was for everyone or just for me.
Okay. Are we back?
Yep.
Okay.
You were frozen, but I think we're back.
Okay. I hope this doesn't break down like last time. Okay, we've got Gay back now, guys. Cool. Okay, yellow cards with 4. Jesus, Saliba, Tony, Gehi, Bruno Dalot, and Shar. These are the real notables with 4 yellow cards. Okay, game week fixtures from 14th through 16th.
But with the yellow cards, hold on. With the yellow cards, now we're so close to the end, which is game week 16. By the way, people note the yellow cards will go beyond the World Cup. They apply till game week 19. So you could have a situation where we will still be thinking, should we get Jesus on the World Cup wildcard, the unlimited transfers? I think now you just go for it. If you have a feeling 3 games is too small, that you just go for it. And if you're unlucky, you're unlucky. So I wouldn't worry. The closer you get to the World Cup, because you're going to sort of have a blank slate anyway. But it's good to know. And look, we called out Maddison's yellow, and the guy trolled every single person by his dive. I'm still frustrated about that, man.
You're very
people
upset
had to
about
take
it.
hits.
Yeah.
The transfers changed. I mean, people with the Kane and Maddison or Bowen combo had to do Maddison out instead of Bowen out, who missed a penalty. Everybody was frustrated. So anyway, not more to harp on that. Everyone follow the list of yellow cards. I've mentioned this before. It's on the FF Scout main website, and it's really useful. I look at it all the time because sometimes you just don't remember. Like Tony, not many people had that clocked, or Maddison. He got the 3 yellows in 3 game weeks consecutively, and it just kind of pops up. So it's good to sort of keep that in mind.
Yep. Okay, so again, this is game week 14 through 16 fixture ticker. Teams with 3 solid fixtures, regardless of home and away, is Everton, City, United, Crystal Palace at the top. Teams with 2 solid fixtures and 1 tricky fixture include Arsenal. They have Chelsea in between. Bournemouth, they have Tottenham in 14, Brighton with Chelsea in 14, Newcastle with Chelsea in 16, West Ham with United in 14, and Liverpool with Tottenham in 15. This is my opinion, right? So a tricky can mean tricky for me and could be not tricky for you, but just lay of the land. The thing I want to show you next is sort of home fixtures. I think this is kind of important because I think fatigue is starting to set in for a lot of teams, and home fixtures is key to a lot of clean sheets. Just teams seem to be defensively better in home fixtures. So this chart up here emphasizes home fixtures and the advantage that they have. Take it as you want to. Everton top of the fixture ticker, but they only have 1 home game. Teams with 2 great home fixtures include City with Fulham and Brentford, West Ham with Crystal Palace, Leicester, Liverpool with Leeds and Southampton. And Arsenal only has 1 home fixture this game week. Arsenal second after Man City in terms of minutes per XG overall. Arsenal first in terms of minutes per XG at home, but they're 12th in terms of minutes per XG away. So much stronger attacking at home than away. Before we get to the next slide, anything you want to mention on fixture outlay between 14 to 16?
Well, I think this is the time for attacking these 3 fixtures. There has never been a time where you're sort of dead-ending a team. All of us are dead-ending a team into a game week, and this is the time now to attack the good team. So it can backfire. Last game week was the perfect example where people were trying to be aggressive. They moved out a Trossard, they moved out a Zaha, some people moved out Mitrovic, and they went for players. They went for Nunes, went for a Foden. It didn't work out. But I don't think people should sort of shy away and say, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more patient. Just, this is the time. If Arsenal is playing Nottingham Forest and Liverpool are playing Leeds, and if you're short of those players, absolutely no harm in going for it. But I think the way you've presented it helps, where you need to take a punt for players that have good fixtures across. So, players like, let's talk about Mitrovic, for example. Mitrovic has two difficult fixtures in 15 and 16, which is Man City away and Man United at home. Now, he did very well at the beginning of the season against these teams, but a lot of the points came from penalties. So if you wanted to sort of punt away from him and go to another player like a Jesus or a Darwin Nunes, this is the time. So we will come to a team by team section where we'll talk about each of these teams in more detail and who to attack from each. But I think from a fixtures point of view, the good thing is we're back to good teams having good fixtures. The one that is standing out to me is Man United. So we'll talk about Man United a little bit more because they have three very, very good fixtures. And Man City, we always knew. And Everton, who are we going to get apart from Pickford, maybe?
Yeah, just while you're talking about Mitrovic, I watched that game versus Leeds. I think Leeds really sort of dominated the first 10, 15 minutes, because I owned both, right? And I was very frustrated. This didn't seem like the way it was going. And then Leeds score one goal and they give it up straight away. But my Andreas was way, way more threatening. Willian was fantastic as well. But it seemed like Mitrovic was a little tired, fatigue, plus the injury, maybe one tempo slow. And so, as you mentioned, they have one good fixture against Everton. But how good of a fixture is it really? I'm not sure. And then Man City and United after. So maybe it is the time to sell him this game week as well, instead of just waiting till the next.
You have to pick your battle in your team, which is the weak spot. Find the weakest spot, and this is not the time for longer term punts or, of course you probably want Mitrovic longer term, but this time you don't care because you have the wild card coming up. The only problem with Mitrovic is the guy scored a brace against Liverpool. He scored a goal against Arsenal. He scored a goal against Spurs. So how do you go against a guy like that? Because he's also on penalties, and they do win penalties. So it's a tricky one, but we'll come to each team, like I said.
It is a tricky one, but also his ownership's not as high as you think overall. I'm not sure about elite and the top managers, but okay.
Yeah, again, forget about ownership. I mean, apart from, I think the people who are getting into, dangerous ownership levels, Haaland, Cancelo, you should be having anyway, Martinelli or a Arsenal mid, you should be having anyway. So ownership is irrelevant for anyone else. Like I said, apart from these guys, everyone is fair game. A good pick. Tony's as good a pick as Mitrovic. There's no reason one to be owned more than the other. Or you can put even now if Martial is fit or if Darwin Nunes is playing. So they're very good picks. I know they're not the same price, but they're not very different. I mean, Mitrovic is what now, 7?
Yeah.
Jesus is 8.
Yep.
So, we need to be sort of bold with these things and not worry about value tied up too much. It's just 3 game weeks.
Do you think the value for the rest of the season is not going to be as important as previous seasons?
Depends. I mean, depends if there's a game week or 2 game weeks in a row, Salah scores a brace, then people will suddenly flock to having 2 premiums. But if they continue to disappoint, then maybe 1 premium is enough. Kane is doing so well. People are sort of avoiding him because they wanted a lot of forwards. Now suddenly, maybe apart from Haaland, Kane, the third forward spot is open. Maybe that's a Jesus, Mitrovic, Tony. Wilson is a great shout as well. Bamford is coming back. So yes, that's the anti-Kane argument. So this is all discussion for the meta after the World Cup, which we will talk to death about. But I think right now, let's focus on the next 3 game weeks. And I think right now, value is not important.
Okay. The next chart we have is game week 14 and 15. So basically, the idea is, what picks can you pick out for this week and next week, and then they have a bad fixture in game week 16. So no team from this list has 2 home fixtures. Brentford at the top, so Tony could be a replacement for someone like Solanke, but Solanke also follows up with great fixtures in 15 and 16. And then Newcastle is here too. They have a bad fixture in 16. I believe it's Chelsea from
Andy.
What is going on?
But I think we're back now.
Coming out of nowhere. Is here too.
We're back, Andy.
We're
Continue.
back. Okay, we're good. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Okay. So teams to target for game weeks 14 and 15 and sell in 16 would be Brentford and Newcastle. Okay, the next one, next final fixture ticker we have is game weeks 15 and 16. So good fixtures for the last two. I think it's my internet problems, guys. I apologize. It's not you guys or Pras, but hopefully this survives for the remainder of the stream. So for 15 and 16, teams with two home fixtures that are good include City, West Ham, and Nottingham Forest. So some teams to target next game week. Teams with tough fixture in 14 but good in 15 and 16 include Bournemouth, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, and United. And United have West Ham this week, so it's depending on how you view West Ham as, a lead team or a team you can target. So,
Yeah, so I think in the last two fixtures, this is interesting because for me, this is how you should be. This is like a 2-week dead end, right? So 15 to 16 is an interesting chart. And so a lot of people are, for example, looking at Mitrovic to Scamacca because West Ham play Crystal Palace and Leicester at home. Very good end to the season. Or you could be looking at maybe you're sitting with a Martinelli or a Saka and you want to sort of switch out. Arsenal is not really the team to be playing around with, but you could think of getting Bowen back. Although the latest is that Bowen may not be on penalties anymore, so is he worth it or not? We'll do a midfielder section later as well. But apart from that, for the last two, I don't really see an opportunity to sort of dead end because you've already got 3 Man City. Liverpool, you could have thought about, but their good fixture is only Southampton at home in game week 16. Spurs away is not great because Spurs will sort of just sit back, right? And Liverpool have been struggling a little bit with with counter-attack, so they will also be cautious because it's an away game. So I don't know. At White Hart Lane, this is going to be a tough one for Liverpool. So where do you go if you wanted to really switch out, Mitrovic to a West Ham player? But who else? Who else is a key template player that you think there's opportunity? I think Zaha is another one, but he plays Nottingham Forest away in game week 16. Who else are you thinking about for your own team?
Wilson. I'm thinking about Wilson, but again, 16 is Chelsea, so I really like the look of Newcastle, and I want a piece of their attack. But besides that, Jesus is probably the standout option for me.
Okay, so let's talk about then teams then. Let's go to each of the teams and see where we are on them. So are we starting with Arsenal?
Let's start with Arsenal, and I have Gabriel Martinelli stats up here first.
Oh, did you not have all three together?
I have all three. Yeah.
Okay. So what this is meant to do is basically show a comparison between the three players, which is Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus, to say if you're looking for a second Arsenal player, who should it be? Should it be a Saka versus should it be a Jesus? So to be honest, if the yellow card didn't exist, this is not a question, because if you look at the minutes per XGI, Jesus is easily the best. Mm-hmm. If you look at the second best, Saka is close to Martinelli, but that's because Saka has penalties. On a non-pen XGI basis, Martinelli is almost equal, if not better than Saka. So my simple position here is, if you can get to a Jesus, if you can live with the yellow card risk, then Jesus is the player to get. Mm. It obviously also depends who you're losing, right? I mean, if you're losing a Kane, it's a different question. If you have a dead spot or a Solanke, it's a different question. In terms of Martinelli and Saka, I don't think there's too much in it. Saka has obviously got pens until we know otherwise, but Martinelli has the value. So for people like you and me who sold Martinelli, I think people can look at Saka and Jesus as the two players, and they don't need to look at Martinelli if you forget ownership, if you forget everything else. I think those are the two picks from my perspective anyway.
I'm completely with you. I think Jesus is XGI is just the highest. Saka and Martinelli, I think, is about 5 compared to 4 or something. So it's not the biggest difference, but Saka does have penalties. My overall take on Arsenal, Pras, is that they're starting to look tired. They're starting to look fatigued. So that's my only concern with being
Based on what though? Just the one Southampton game.
just the way they looked, it seemed lethargic a little bit. I don't know.
I mean,
You don't think that's a big
they've got,
factor?
they're the second best attack in the league. They're
Mm.
playing Nottingham Forest at home. I mean, I would say people are looking at Haaland as being potentially out. I'm not trying to scaremonger. I think he'll play. But if you're going different, Jesus is the second best captain, better than Salah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because of the way they've been attacking. Now he's a striker. He's not on pens. That makes it a little bit iffy. So I can see why people could go Salah as a second.
Yeah.
But Saka is a great shout as well. I mean, this attack is very, very good. This isn't the Arsenal of old. Let's see what happens in the Europa League. But yes, there was one blip in the result against Southampton. It was an away game, home to Nottingham Forest. This is the money fixture. You have to have two attackers. So for me, it's worth taking the punt on Jesus if you can get to him. But otherwise, Martinelli and Saka are also perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. Arsenal's priority for me this week, but I just think they look a bit tired from the last game, but we'll see. Yeah.
Right. And so now what you have here, this is also from the members area. This is just a comparison between the three. I mean, look at Jesus here. He's the one in yellow. Highest for big chances, equal for bonuses, highest for goal involvement, highest for goal attempts, highest for number of goals, shots in the box. Only assists are lower. XGI is way higher than anybody else. He's the pick. If you wanted to sort of bet your money on, or I don't encourage betting, but if you want to bet on a player to score points, it would be Jesus for me in this game week. And because people are afraid of the 4 yellows, they're not going there. But at a minimum, you need 2 of those guys.
Yep. Okay, yeah.
So that's on the attackers. And I think defense is great too. The only problem with defense is that you want to sort of maximize the upside on your transfers. You only have 3 left between now and game week 16. Do you really want to sort of use one of them in defenders when we've already had to waste our transfers in defenders because of James, because of people who had to sell Trent like me, or had to buy back Trent like me? So, it's not great. So if you have spare transfers, if you have really an emergency, because the thing with Arsenal is they're not really big upside defenders. I know White was on for a 12-pointer because he got an assist, but they're not really attacking defenders. They're not a Cancelo, Trippier, or TAAs. So if you wanted a 3-week upside, because Chelsea game, they maybe concede, so you maximum get 2 clean sheets and no attacking returns. I mean, I guess you cannot punt on a Gabriel header or Saliba header or a White assist. So this is why I'm sort of wary about defenders, unless you really have an open position and you are forced into a defensive transfer. Going forward after the World Cup, I think pretty much everyone will own White. He's just so cheap and he plays for the third best defense in the league. But at the moment, I would be a little bit more cautious and say use your transfers in places where you see the 10, 15-pointer in the next 3 game weeks.
Yep, fair point. I do think Nottingham Forest and Wolves in 16 are good, very good clean sheet opportunities. So if you're a White owner, I think even the Chelsea game, I feel like it's going to be a very cagey game. Could end up being 0-0. Who knows? So, but as you mentioned, not much upside in terms of attacking potential, and we're trying to load up on their attacking assets. So fair.
Yeah, and there's a question in the chat from John. If you buy Saka or Jesus now, are you holding for Chelsea and Wolves? Of course you are. I mean, this team absolutely smashed Liverpool. Yep. So I don't see any problems. I mean, I know Chelsea are playing better defensively. They're looking very good. But Wolves is also a great fixture. I mean, I wouldn't worry about the Wolves away fixture.
I'm totally with you, Pras, on Arsenal are second best team in the league right now. And they look a different animal compared to last season. So if you have Arsenal assets, you're very confident going into any game week.
So let's go to that midfielders table, because a lot of people are now within the Arsenal discussion. They're thinking about, shall we sell Bowen? Shall we sell Zaha to get a Saka? So I thought, we could do a little bit of discussion on who are the mids that we should be looking at based on the data for the season. So on the table, you see it's a lot of numbers, a lot of players, but I'm going to read it out as well. So number 1 you have on the list is Foden. This is all midfielders under 8.5 million. And this is non-pen XGI per 90. So Foden number 1. Now, somebody who we've not talked about is Odegaard. Odegaard is number 2 on the list. Granted, a lot of his numbers came from that one match. There was one match where he hauled, right? Do you remember which one that was?
No, I don't remember.
So Odegaard, I will tell you now. He scored basically against Bournemouth in game week 2. He got the brace, and a lot of his XGI numbers were created from that. But look, it's a per 90 stat, so I think Odegaard is a decent shout as well. We forgot to mention him in the discussion. Let's say you cannot get to a Saka because of your team structure, because maybe you have a Kane. You can't get to a Saka or a Jesus, and you wanted to pair up Martinelli with somebody. I think Odegaard is fine. Even Xhaka is fine. Xhaka is like playing quite advanced, and we've talked about him in the past where if Tierney isn't playing and there's no left back who's bombing forward, then Martinelli gives the width, Xhaka gets into the box, and he's in there. He's always shooting. He's always,
Yeah, the one thing
this isn't like that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
The one thing I just want to say...
This isn't like one of those
Go ahead.
Neveses that a DM is getting goals. Xhaka is actually playing as an advanced 8 and he's getting goals. Sorry, go on.
No, fair. He is playing that, Gundogan-like kind of running into the box and way more attacking. And I did say this about why haven't Arsenal not used him as what he is now in the past, in the previous seasons. But his XGI...
He's been rubbish in the past. That's
okay,
right.
Fair. A lot of Arsenal fans in the chat, so I won't say much there. But his XGI drops off somewhat drastically compared to someone like Martinelli and who's the other guy, Saka. So it's just I feel like he's a good pick for his price point, and we might be sleeping on him, as someone in the chat mentioned. But at the same time, if you can get to a Martinelli or a Saka, I definitely prefer that over Saka any day.
Fair, but I think people can think about Odegaard as a 6.4 asset if they can't get to a player. He does have the numbers to back him. He is playing just behind Jesus. I mean, Jesus comes back as well, and he does a lot of the pressing.
Yeah.
But sometimes Odegaard is involved, especially against teams that are sitting back. So he did haul against Bournemouth, right? So teams, if they're willing to sit back, then Odegaard will be more advanced. So I don't think we can just say that's a bad pick. Xhaka isn't a bad pick. Odegaard isn't a bad pick. But yes, clearly Jesus is number 1 if you can get away with the risk, and Saka and Martinelli are close. So keep going. Let's go on the list. So then you have Foden, Odegaard. Rodrigo's up here on his per 90 numbers, although he missed a lot of games and now he's a little bit of rotation risk, so we don't need to go there. Martinelli and Saka are number 4 and 5. Now, as I mentioned, Martinelli is just above Saka on a non-pen XGI basis, but if you believe that Saka is on pens, which is what we know now, then Saka becomes the most superior pick. But if you were picking for the season, of course you pick the cheaper guy, but you're not picking for the season, you're picking for 3 game weeks. In that case, for me, Saka is better than Martinelli if you happen to be in a situation where you didn't have either. Gross, Saint Maximin, Almiron has shown up finally. Of course, people who've been on him are, they know stuff that we don't know. The thing is, he was always a rotation risk, but it so happened that Saint Maximin, Isak, everybody is basically who was competition is out. And now he's got his spot, and this happens, right? He's nailed down his spot because he's been so good that you don't see Saint Maximin displacing him that easily. Yeah. So at the moment, yes, until the World Cup, great pick. But do you want to use a transfer on a team that's going to play Chelsea in the next 3? Wait, let me see. Who do Newcastle play?
No, Newcastle's fixtures are good, Pras. I think they're pretty solid.
Aston Villa, Southampton away, and Chelsea at home. Yeah. So they do play Chelsea, but then, that's a home game, and then they also play Villa. See, the Villa team is better, right? I mean, look what they did last game week.
Yeah.
There's no Gerrard. Then Southampton away. I think it's fine. Newcastle are one of the form teams. I think last 5 game weeks, they're top of the table for results. So it's fine to back them, and it's fine to go Almiron. But if you could go Saka, then why would you go Almiron? That's my problem.
On that note, if I just briefly talk on Newcastle, I did talk to my good friend FPL TT, who's diehard Newcastle fan. My read on this this past game was that one of the they spent so much money on bringing players, so that's probably why they're so good. But I thought that they're sort of the way they played this game is not through building up, but playing the long ball and then obviously pressing. And Newcastle seems to fight to win the second ball. So after they play the long ball. So for example, the Loris foul was from a long ball. I believe from Shar to Wilson, and then Loris got fouled Wilson, and they're able to play this long ball because they're so physically strong, and they have long ball passers in Shar and Trippier on the right. So they'll play a three back at times, and Trippier will play on the right, and then Shar will have a good sort of visual map of the entire pitch, and then he'll just play that long ball. And Tottenham are so weak in that build up from their defensive line to the midfield line that they have all the space in the world. So that's where Almiron really excels, winning that second ball off of Wilson, for example. So
yeah.
On the other hand, TT saying that like they're not only a great pressing team, but he believes they build up a lot from the back as well. And basically it just goes to show that Newcastle is a force to reckon with. They're a really solid team. Almiron 5-5, form of his life. Wilson, focal of the attack. I'm very interested in picking out either Almiron or Wilson for the next 3 game weeks. I think it's a very, very solid option. I'm not afraid of the Chelsea fixture at all. I'm happy to play Trippier against Chelsea, for example. And so the question is, why haven't teams figured them out? It's interesting you brought up Aston Villa, Pras, because I think Aston Villa is actually going to be a very difficult fixture out of the 3, just as much as Chelsea possibly. Emery, very bona fide great coach, right? He just hasn't done well in the Premier League, but 4-time Europa League winner. He's excelled at Sevilla, PSG, last season as well at Villarreal, Champions League push, and Gerrard kept playing that Christmas tree inside forward thing that we kept talking about, where he'll play Bailey on the right and uses, he's a left footer, and you'll play Watkins on the left. But this game, they switched it around, right? Bailey went to the left and did really well. Watkins went to the right, Ings up top, and they were just much more fluid, faster tempo, and just looked like a better team. And one of the things about Emery that makes him so good is he's very adaptable, the opposite of Conte, very flexible, able to adapt, play the counter-attacking system, play the possession-based system when need be. And so they have a chip on their shoulders. Gerrard's out. They're going to want to make an impression on their new coach. And I think this match is going to be a very interesting game. I don't know where it goes, but my favorites are Newcastle, obviously, but I think Aston Villa could even come off with the win in this game.
Fair enough. But I think big picture, we agree. Nothing to touch with in Aston Villa. Lineups change, tactics evolve. So yeah. Newcastle, I think, fair shout. Anyone who has Newcastle players doesn't need to worry. They're a top 6, top 5 team now. So there's nothing to worry about in terms of holding their assets, even for difficult fixtures. So I agree with you. So let me go down the list. So I have come to now a place where it's 0.45 non-pen XGI, which is decent numbers. This basically means every other game you're getting a goal or an assist. Then you come down to a level which is below 0.45. And the players that you see here are... Actually, Rashford is in there as well. He's bang on 0.45 non-pen XGI. Now, the thing with Rashford is he's a confidence player. And if he's given a run out in the team and he looks sharp, you can know within the first 15 minutes of a game whether this is a Rashford game or he's going to be completely rubbish, because that's how he has been in the last 2 years. Some games he's on it, he's shooting, he's sharp. Some games he completely looks off it. He cannot dribble the ball. He cannot have a first touch. It's really odd. I don't know what is the mental side of that. But players, people watching know that this is going to be a Rashford haul or it's going to be a Rashford disappointment. But on the good side, we're actually at a phase where he's putting in good performances week in, week out. It looks like he's got the set year. He wants to start before the World Cup. This kind of politics may also come into it. But Dalot is great, again, on 4 yellows, but he's great, very attacking. There are options from Man United, but I think if people are considering it, Rashford is there. He's showing the numbers. He's on the table.
Okay. We're good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Did it hang again?
I think so. Pras, you want to just do your Rashford section quickly again?
Okay. So in summary, essentially he should maintain his position at the front of the lineup. He is very on and off, but over the last few game weeks, he's looking like he's on it. He's looking sharp. He's shooting. He could have hauled against, he could have hauled against Chelsea. I think he's a good pick, and people need to decide whether they go for him or a second Arsenal midfielder or someone else. So I think he should be a good pick. You could go for Antony as well. He shoots on sight. He does sort of, he's very direct in his approach. Sancho is good. And I think Ronaldo doesn't take Rashford's place anytime soon. Martial is on the pitch, or he's running around, but he's not training yet with the first team. So I think Rashford is a good pick as well.
So you would say that from your United picks, Rashford would be your top attacking pick?
Easily. Because of the price as well, right? I mean, if it was the same price as Antony, I would have said maybe Antony is a little bit more nailed, just slightly more nailed. But I think all of them start all three.
Yeah, and how about Dalot as a pick?
Very good as well.
4 yellow cards, doesn't matter.
You don't want to make defensive transfers now. I think I worry about a 4.6 million defender if he's on 4 yellows. He misses one game, it's not the end of the world. When Jesus is on 4 yellows, you are forced into a transfer. If Dalot gets a 5th yellow, you just play, Guehi or Webster, whatever. So I don't think that matters so much.
Okay.
Right. So then below Rashford in the list, you have Bailey, Trossard. Yes, we hate Trossard. Madison. Yes, we hate Madison. And then Zaha and Antony. So these are the guys. These are the guys people are thinking about. And then way down is Bowen. Bowen is 0.33, which is actually not great. Yeah. Now, Bowen had absolutely rubbish stats before Game Week 8. Some people went there. They got the returns because the fixtures were great. We've looked at the fact that West Ham's fixtures from 15 and 16 are great. If you have him, it's a decision. It's a decision if you want to keep him or not. I would personally be tempted to say that, look, if he's lost penalties, then on an underlying basis, he's not even close to a Saka. He's not close to a Foden. And I would be tempted to make the move.
Okay.
Then shall we talk about Zaha? Because a lot of people are thinking about Zaha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it says it's gone again. Then shall we talk about Zaha?
I think we're fine.
Then shall we talk about Zaha?
Oh, we're fine. Okay.
All right. So have you got the Zaha shot map?
Yes, I do.
So the thing with Zaha is the guy he has completely changed the way he's playing from game week 1 to 5 versus game week 6 to 13. So I decided to look that is there really something in the underlying data? Because when we watch the games, we also see it that there's a Zaha that we see that is so wide that he's not involved. And then something changes and Vieira says, okay, now you're involved. And then he cuts in a lot more. He's part of the attacking play a lot more. So is it a case of that in the first 5 game weeks, he was told to attack, and after that, he's sort of changed the structure? Edouard has come into the team, and it looks like he's staying in the team. It has fundamentally changed Zaha's numbers. So first, what you see on here is XG created. So shots taken that have created XG for Zaha in the first 5 game weeks. So 1 to 5, and then 6 to 13. You see the difference here. All his shots were right inside the box in the first 5 game weeks. There were some big XG chances as well, but even the small XG chances, they're all pretty much in the box. If you look at the chances from 6 to 13, they're all from either the edge of the box where he's just cut in, or it's from outside the box. Apart from that one shot, which ended up being a goal, there is absolutely nothing in his attacking play that even mirrors what he was doing in the first 1 to 5 game weeks. If you go to the attacking data, the expected data, which is the next slide. Now, this is expected per 90. His XG has dropped from 0.6. Now, remember, we were looking at a table where even Foden wasn't even at 0.6. This guy was producing 0.6 XG in the first 1 to 5 game weeks. After that, he's dropped off a cliff. It's 0.2. Yeah. If you look at, he is on pens. So yes, he could create. Some of this has been created through the penalties that he took. But the fact of the matter is, even his assist potential is half of what he had in the first 5 versus the games after. Overall, his XGI is 0.8 versus 0.2, which is a fourth. So the risk you're taking with Zaha is that basically Patrick Vieira, because of his tactics, because of the opponent, may just decide, okay, I want the Zaha of the early season, not the one that I've been playing. And so Zaha, you play up top instead of Edouard, or you play in that attacking role instead of what Eze is doing or what Edouard is doing. So you may have a situation where Zaha scores a brace in the next game week. But based on what we're seeing, based on what has happened after game week 6, he's not even an asset worth keeping, even if he's playing Nottingham Forest this week. That's where I landed in terms of Zaha.
You mean Southampton this week, I believe.
Southampton. I mean, as even if it's an easy fixture.
Yeah. So a couple things. It's very interesting you pointed this out because I remember, I think it was a Leicester game. I think it ended at 0-0, and I was watching that game. Maybe it was a Leicester game, but Zaha was frustrating because he was just being so wide, getting the ball and sort of creating and then not being really involved in the final ball, right? Or final, whether it be the assist or the shot itself. And he's just, does what he does best, is cut to the, like Robin-like cut, and then try to shoot from outside the box. So, and that those chances didn't come that much, right? So it was very frustrating to watch. Crystal Palace is way better at home than away, but they have a home fixture against Southampton this week, followed by 2 away fixtures. It's not. It sounds like you're going to sell him, Pras, but it's not an easy sell, right? Because we have a lot of fires to burn out. There's injuries coming up. What's up with Haaland? This and that. Maybe this is just one more game week where you could keep him, but I could easily also see him be blank this game week as well. So it's a tough one. I'm wrestling with it myself.
Look, this is not a clear sell, like you said. You're right. And he does play Nottingham Forest in game week 16 as well. So Southampton at home after, and then Nottingham Forest in 16. It's going to be the same Trossard pain or the Barnes pain for me. Like you sell a player and then he starts to do well. It's very possible. But how can you not back an Arsenal player ahead of Nottingham Forest or not chase upside in 3 game weeks? So I'm not sold yet. I'll come to my bus team on selling Zaha, but people who are debating between selling Zaha or Bowen, I think easily Zaha needs to go first because Bowen has 2 good fixtures after that. But both aren't amazing. So that's where we landed when we look at data.
Shout out Wrangler, shout out Zaha, FPL Zaha. Pras, why you dissing me through the chat? One thing I'll say about these prayer circles, I know it's ridiculous. When I first saw the Twitter circles last season, I didn't think much about it and just started doing it. It worked out once 2-3 weeks ago, and then I realized how a lot of people hate those prayer circles. So I think I'm gonna stop it and use it
when I hate it. They just mute the people who do it. So and I can't mute my pod partner. So that's the problem.
So you guys, if you on the weekends you can mute me because more prayer circles to come for sure.
So where are you with Zaha? What are you thinking?
I don't want to sell him. I would only sell him if it funds a move for like a Saka plus Jesus, because I do have 2 free transfers. So I'm wrestling with it.
Of course, you missed the deadline and you have 2 free transfers, right? You made 9 points and you have a free transfer. We forgot about that.
Pras, very salty today. Very salty.
It's fine. I'm kidding, man. All right. So where are we now? City?
Let's do Salah first, or yeah, sure, City.
Yeah. I sold Salah for Andreas Pereira, but you go on.
Wait, what?
I'm kidding.
Okay. Whoa. Okay, Salah, I just have a picture of him frustrated. That's it. That's all it is for visuals. So let's talk about Salah. Let's say Haaland, we get some sort of hint, not through Pep. It would probably have to be through someone else, that Haaland, first game of the week, might possibly miss it. He's the go-to captain option, no doubt about it, right?
You mean Salah?
Salah.
No,
yeah.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I mean, he's a good option, but if he plays on the right, if Nunes is starting, then Nunes is the go-to option. If he's playing up
Nunes.
top, then yes, he is the go-to option. This is why a lot of people went there when basically there was news that he's going to play up top against Nottingham Forest. And I really, really think that was a good call. Just like I think it was a fair call when I did it against Brighton in game week 9. It didn't work out, but that's fine. I mean, that it shouldn't sort of deter people from doing it. So let me tell you a realistic situation, what's going to happen. The realistic situation is Pep's going to say, no, Haaland is better. Haaland is feeling better. He was able to train. We will see. We will see how he is on Saturday, right? That's all you're going to get. Now you're in a situation where you don't have any confirmed leak because Man City is pretty tight. You don't really get anything, even though it's the early kickoff. Will you punt? So it's not about him being out. It's about him being uncertain. Will you punt against Haaland? And therefore, if you do that, who is then the best option? I think Salah is a good option, but we need to see Nunes' minutes tonight. So we will need to see if he's looking sharp, if he's looking to start as well again. We need to see Jesus on Thursday, minutes of Jesus and Saka. Because as I mentioned, for me, if I owned a Jesus and I owned a Nunes, I would captain those two maybe over Salah. The Salah who's starting on the right, not the Salah who's starting up top. The only issue with them is both of them are not on penalties. And penalties, as we know, is a major part of the game. A lot of the returns come from penalties.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, fair. I was disregarding Nunes because we don't know about his injury, but it seems like he might be back for the Champions League. So
apparently he's trained today.
Okay. Yeah, so that changes my transfer plans as well because I think his non-penalty XGI is ridiculously high compared to everybody else. So granted, he's played very limited minutes. But yeah, I think it's the Leeds fixture that entices me over the Arsenal options as captaincy. Still, Arsenal options might be a better pick than Salah, but that Leeds game is such an open game, especially just watching Fulham play against them. So I don't know. Maybe it's my.
Open, but Forest is as well. Forest is also at home.
Yeah. So Liverpool.
I mean, I know Nico Williams has kept 2 clean sheets in a row now, but still, I mean, it's Forest and Arsenal's. You mentioned Arsenal's XG. It's home, right? Home Forest, isn't it?
Southampton, you mean Arsenal? Oh,
no,
Forest.
No. Arsenal are home Forest. So
Forest,
you told me the stats of Arsenal being at home.
True.
They have 2 plus 2.5 plus XG. So yeah, I think Arsenal attack is as good as Liverpool attack. We need to get the prices out of our head. So then the fixture is better, I would say, the Forest one, more than Leeds. Yes, it could be more open, the Leeds game, but that to me tells me that Leeds could score and maybe Forest don't even score. So you will get a clean sheet point for Saka versus no clean sheet point for Salah. So it's one to think about. I don't think Salah is the automatic captain.
Fair. And if we end up all captaining Haaland, your vice captaincy will probably be very important this week, just in case he doesn't end up playing. So,
well, the more likely scenario is that he still comes on. So vice captaincy is irrelevant. So you're bold enough to say, I will back against Haaland, and if he starts and if he hauls, so be it. But if he misses the game and gets a 1 minute, a 10-minute cameo where he does nothing, and I can back a captain, this is the week. But yes, you have to be prepared to be burnt, man. And maybe it's easier for me to say because I've been burnt once and I've lost points. So it's actually, you realize that, it's not the end of the season if that happens. The people did it this week. I mean, there were players who captained Salah, still scored great points because they had Andreas Pereira or Ward or Zuma or whatever. So it's not the end of the game week. It's fine. So if you were ever looking to take a risk, this is the week. If Pep is still iffy about him in the press conference on Friday.
Fair. And on that note, let's go to City. Pep came out with peculiar quotes, but to simply summarize, Cancelo played with a fever. But Pep also mentions that they have a bunch of problems with the fullbacks. We don't have Gomez, Walker, or Stones. On Foden, he was super tired for the Brighton game, which is why he got rested and started in the Champions League yesterday. And on Haaland, so tired, bit of influenza in the body, knock on his feet. Medical team said they were a bit concerned, but he ended up walking quite good at the end. So Pep-like quotes, I think Cancelo's fine. I think he'll be good to go. I think Foden will be good to go. I hope he starts, but who knows? And Haaland, we just kind of have to, be engaged and see what happens towards the end of the week. Yeah.
The European context is very important here. So one of the things we didn't discuss is what is the qualification state. So Chelsea are in it. They look like they've qualified, but they will have to sort of at least get a draw to come first. But they will likely qualify as second. Man City are number 1 confirmed. So Pep has already said that he's going to play the kids against Sevilla, or not the kids, but people who've been in the periphery of the squad. So for sure, Haaland's not starting the Sevilla game. For sure, Haaland's not starting the Carabao Cup game, which is after. So the next 2 midweeks are the 6th and the final round of Champions League or Europe, and then the Carabao Cup. So basically, he's getting midweek rests throughout now until the World Cup. He may be doing this because he wants to keep them fresh anyway, but also the World Cup now starts to come into it where players may be saying, look, we're tiring. And they may be whining a little bit more because they want to be fit for their countries, which is fair. Look, I mean, this is how it is. The mentality is that you want to play the World Cup. Now, Haaland isn't in the World Cup, but other players may be in that. So Foden could be in that. So those are things to think about. But I think from a City perspective, because of the 2 midweeks where he's going to be playing, the players on the periphery, like an Alvarez, like a Mahrez, like maybe, some of these defenders that are on the periphery, I think it's fine. I think Haaland's minutes should be okay, as long as he's fit, which we will find out on Friday.
Yep. Okay, well summarized. Any other?
Okay, Jay points out that Chelsea have also already topped the group because
Yep.
of the head-to-head against AC Milan. So Chelsea also then, but then Potter's what Potter does, right? He's also sort of discovering European football. So he may not play the kids or he may not play the peripheral players, but fair point that Chelsea, Man City both look okay in terms of next midweek.
I also agree with TIFC talking about KDB because I thought KDB looked probably the best player on the pitch over the weekend, excluding Haaland. And there's no way to get to him besides downgrading Salah. But we all probably already have triple City. But if you do have KDB, I mean, I'd be confident putting the captaincy on him as well, as long as he does start.
Fair. Problem with KDB is only that you don't know where he plays if Haaland doesn't play. So if you're playing for a KDB captaincy and then you have almost a hedge. If Haaland plays, then KDB will feed him. If he doesn't play, then maybe he's more advanced. I haven't seen him play much with Alvarez up top, so it's difficult. It's a little bit of a gamble, but I think you'll get the minutes. So I think he's a fair shout, but I still think Jesus is better.
Yeah, City does play Leicester, and I think this Leicester Wolves game, Ward clean sheet was ridiculous, annoying as hell.
Very lucky.
I mean, he had 20. I think Wolves had 20 something shots, and Leicester had 4 or 5 shots.
Yeah,
Ward is really killing me right now. But
it's not. He's not killing you. He's not that well owned, man. I mean, you're only looking at Twitter and thinking he's killing you. Same with Zuma. I mean, people who had him, great, but it didn't matter much in terms of rank for those who didn't have. We get super competitive looking at Twitter and saying, "Oh, this guy has Ward and Zuma and Andreas Pereira. What a lucky guy!" And but he's not really your competition if you're looking at overall rank, and he's not in your mini league. So I think there's a healthy relationship talk to be had as well. With if you're on Twitter, you will always find the guy who owns. You'll find the guy who triple captain Zuma as well from last game week. So, it's fine. I mean, people who have Ward, the honeymoon period is now over because the good fixtures are now pretty much over because Leicester's next 3 aren't great. So, yeah.
Triple captain Zuma, I think FPL mode. Our friend from Scoutcast probably did that, and and our friend Baker, Baker texted me after Zuma's haul and said, "Oh, look, we both got Zuma." So just to rub it in you a little bit more, Pras.
People who have Zuma hate cats, so that's basically what it is. So guys enjoy being cruel to animals.
Yeah, I purposely didn't celebrate that haul, but. Okay, we've covered Salah, the City, any others?
Foden. I think Foden's going to start. I don't think Mahrez is, like I said, I think the pattern for Mahrez will be starting midweeks in the 2 games that are less relevant. So I think it'll be Foden, Grealish back again.
Okay.
But predicting Pep is not easy, and we will have enough people who predict Pep better than me who will do it on Friday. So you see it then. But I think Foden will start.
If Haaland isn't the captaincy option, would Foden possibly entice you? Too risky?
Could do, but again, you're comparing Foden. You're basically going for a Man City player for the sake of going for a Man City player. You have to remember that maybe Alvarez comes in and scores a hat-trick if Haaland isn't there, and Foden is less involved if Alvarez is playing. I just don't know. It just feels much more of a gamble than going for a Nunes or an Arsenal player or a Salah if he's playing up top. That's just my gut instinct. But look, his numbers are great. So, I don't think that's such a big risk. Your issue is if he gets a cameo or if he doesn't end up starting, then what do you do? You'd rather go for a nailed player like a Saka.
Fair. Okay. Boss teams?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to yours first, Pras. If you can read out your team, please.
Sure. 1 second. My team has Guaita playing a back four, subject to how many minutes Doherty gets tonight. But I'm playing Cancelo, Trippier, Trent, and Doherty. I was really pained. I mean, both Trent and Doherty had to bench last game week because, they are my two upside defenders. They are my differentials. Not many people own them. And both of them I had to bench. But anyway, then in midfield, I have Zaha, Salah, Martinelli, and Foden. And up top, I have Haaland and Mitrovic. On the bench, I have Ward, Guehi, Andreas Pereira, and Greenwood. As many have pointed out, I'm going to swap Andreas Pereira as my first sub, of course. In terms of my team, I think I might do Zaha to Saka, or I might do Mitrovic to Jesus. I can do either for free, and that will be my move. If there was no World Cup break, I would have saved a transfer of 100% this week. But because we're only 3 game weeks in, and this is the time that I want to be a little bit more aggressive, I think I'll make the move this week. So that's where I'm at. Captaincy, like I mentioned, if Haaland is out, that may actually make me do the Mitrovic to Jesus move a little bit more because I would captain Jesus. But if Haaland is fit, then I might do the Zaha to Saka move. So that will sort of play into how I go about it. But obviously pending how Salah looks, how Trent looks tonight, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
You tell us, you, Mr. with 2 free transfers.
Yeah. Okay, my team right now, I have Pope in goal, 3 at the back, Trippier, Cancelo, and Zuma. In the midfield.
Wait, you're playing Zuma over Doherty?
No, I just don't know yet. I definitely played Doherty,
Okay.
but this is just in place for now, but we'll see.
Okay.
As you said, the thing is, even if, let's say, Doherty doesn't get the minutes tonight, I'm still not confident he starts over the weekend. Royale could easily, start this one and the next one as well. So it's a tough one.
I think if Royal starts tonight, then Doherty should start Bournemouth.
I've been reading the opposite. I think that people are thinking that if Royale starts tonight, he'll again start it over the weekend. But logically
So 3
speaking,
in a row.
Yeah, I mean, Conte just doesn't like to rotate, right? But I don't know. Logically speaking, it makes sense. Doherty over the weekend, but we'll see. We'll see. In the midfield, I've got Salah, Foden, Zaha, Andreas, Trossard. Up top, I've got Mitrovic and Haaland. On the bench, Doherty, Solanke, and Neco Williams. Do we have any Solanke news yet that you're aware of?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was the day before. I mean, we'll know. I mean, he's such an important player. We'll know on Friday. But
Yeah.
were you going to play him against Spurs anyway?
No, I'm just wondering if I need to trade him out because his fixtures in 15-16 are very solid. So, and he's also a very tricky price point because he's hard to move up to someone like a Wilson. I could still do it because I have 2 point something in the bank, but I'm in a desperate hunt for Arsenal assets. So that's my priority. Right, my priority right now is Arsenal attack, but I also
So what are you looking at?
but I also really like the look of Wilson. So for me, there's multiple options. I don't have Martinelli. I could do Mitrovic to what's his name, Jesus, and I could do, for example, Trossard to Martinelli or Zaha to Saka. I can't do Trossard to Saka and Mitrovic to Martinelli. I could do something like Zaha to I think Martinelli and then Solanke up to Jesus. I think I can just get there. So there's that option as well.
You would keep Trossard basically for the 2 next
15,
2.
16. Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
So that
As long as he doesn't start left wing back.
Yeah. But I don't know. I like the idea that I got lucky with Trossard and maybe I should just keep him for 15, 16. But essentially the idea is to use both transfers, not take a hit. I mean, I could also do triple and take a hit and get triple Arsenal attack, all 3 of them in for Zaha, Trossard, and Mitrovic as well. So, so many.
Are you looking at Nunes at all in attack?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Nunes was first priority over Jesus, by the way. So it would have been Nunes and Martinelli most likely, or Nunes and Saka if I can get there, but I don't think so. So that would be an additional transfer for someone like an Almiron just to be able to afford those 3. But I think the upside with Nunes is so high that I'm very interested in thinking about Nunes as well. So it sounds like he'll play tonight. So maybe my transfer thinking has switched a little bit on that news.
By the way, there's a player I know, He's from South Korea. I forget his name. He's playing Bournemouth. I don't know if you're considering him.
What? Really? Oh. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I'm very embarrassed. So I'll tell you about Son. I'm thinking about Salah to Son and possibly game week 15. This is
15 or 16? Because Son plays Liverpool. Don't they play each other?
Yeah, they play each other. I'm thinking about
Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking about taking Son over Salah in that game, but I have to see something from Spurs. I have to see something from Son as well. I'm the first to admit I just don't think Son's finding his groove right now. It doesn't look great, and there's Real Madrid transfer news as well. I don't know how true it is, but I really need Son to like figure this out because the World Cup is fast approaching, and we really need him in order to have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you can see him staying with 3-5-2 and having Richarlison playing Kane. I mean, if Son doesn't look great, and then he
Yeah.
can come off the bench and score his hat tricks again. But yeah, okay. I just wanted to sort of tease it out because if you go Salah to Son, you can also free up money for Nunes and take a hit. I mean, there's a lot that you can do, so it's a good position to be in.
But I don't recommend Son to anybody. It's just, but even this Newcastle game, he had two solid chances where he could score. But it's not about having these chances anymore. It's just not scoring. And but I believe in my guy no matter what. So it'll come. It'll come.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Excellent.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know we had some internet issues. Hopefully, I can solve it by next week. Pras, it was a pleasure as usual. We'll be back next week, and good luck to you all.
Good luck.